I'm telling you, the constant battle out here on this place. I mean, it's so mean, it's relentless. Lost her, I don't know where she went.
This is not how you want to start the day.
Go that way.
Definitely a nice one. Oh, gosh, dang it.
Golly, dude. Come here, baby. They just don't give up. Look at that thing. Oh, that feels good. We got a limit.
He came in so quick. What a toad, man. Look at that
It's
thing.
an amazing fish. Nothing better. It's almost a 4-pounder. $3.99.
God, look, get in here.
Begging.
Oh, yes, baby! That's what we're talking about! That's what we're after! A little bit of adversity, don't let it. What up, son? What you doing, buddy? Dang stud smallmouth, Lake Erie, that is what we're looking for. Let's freaking go. Yes, sir.
As we look out over Lake Erie out of Sandusky, Ohio this morning, let's go over some of the things we've learned this week. Number one, Jacob Wheeler, the man right there, is a force to be reckoned with. And so is Lake Erie. For our anglers trying to make that nearly 200-mile round trip up to St. Clair, they faced mangled gear, broken trolling motors, broken rods, missing graphs. What a force that was. Next up, speaking of graphs, if you're not using forward-facing electronics, then you're going to not be competing with these guys here on Lake Erie because they have this dialed to a level that I have never seen before. But then lastly, none of this really matters anyway because we're all going to get eaten by sharks. Spoiler alert if you haven't been watching Shark Week, they are absolutely everywhere. We are all doomed, so we might as well make the best of it, like watching Day 4, Championship Friday here on Lake Erie for stop number 6, the final stop of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Good morning, everyone. I'm Travis Moran coming at you live for the next 6 hours here at the FLW studios in Benton, Kentucky, right alongside Red and Gold Tomatoes Pro Todd Hollowell and MLF's very own Marty Stone. Marty, this is also our final event of 3 super tournaments where we've combined the MLF and the FLW anglers. $1.3 million in payouts, 125, even 160,000 potentially for the top spot today. That can buy a lot of shark repellent.
Man, you are on money today. I don't know. Starbucks must be working. Tell you what, we're going to talk about the 3 W's today, and that's going to be the win, Wheeler, and who's the best smallmouth fisherman. This group is up against some of the most adverse conditions that I've ever seen a group be let loose in. And we're going to question the sanity of the guys that went and the people who made the decision to let them go, because it's going to be rough out there today. They're looking at 14-mile-an-hour sustained first thing this morning. But man, we have got a stacked field.
You talk about Shark Week, you're going to see the ocean out there today. You're going to see Lake Erie with a 15-mile-an-hour northeast wind, but you're also going to see some of the best smallmouth fishermen in the game. Josh Bertrand, Justin Lucas, Jacob Wheeler, Scott Dobson coming to you live today. We're looking forward to that. They've put on a show for us so far, Travis, over the first 3 days, and I guarantee you got more fireworks coming today.
Yeah, speaking of that show, Todd, it's Day 4. It's Championship Friday. There's going to be a lot of money on the table here, but let's look back at some of those highlights and those great catches we've seen so far.
We're going to start right off with Josh Bertrand. I'm not going to say he's been in control of this thing from start to finish because he had a slight hiccup on Day 2. Justin Lucas self-proclaims him the best smallmouth fisherman in the business. I've heard Alton Jones Jr. back up that sentiment, and so far Bertrand has not disappointed in this event. He's out on Lake Erie catching these fish on a Berkeley flatworm.
And then Justin Lucas out of Guntersville, Alabama, but I always want to throw in that he is originally from California, West Coast guy that has really fine-tuned his finesse fishing out there and is putting it to work here in Lake Erie. We say he's fishing closer to the takeoff, and that's only relative to the guys making that long run up to St. Clair, because these guys have a nasty run up to these islands, up to the Canadian border here.
29-year-old Jacob Wheeler, originally from Indianapolis, makes Chickamauga his home. We watched him win our first super tournament there. Tried to get it done at La Crosse, finished second. He's back in position here, coming in to this event, second place on the final day. Yesterday, we saw him battle some equipment issues, guys. Was off the water for a little over an hour and came right back out, went right back to work. Jacob threw down 22.5 yesterday to be in contention to win this event.
Oh, yes, baby. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're after. A little bit of adversity don't lay. What up, son? What?
And then Spencer Sheffield, one of our anglers, making that long 200-mile round trip run up to St. Clair, and he's, from what we can tell, our only angler in the top 10 today, making that run one final time. But it's paid off for him so far. He started the morning in 4th place, weighed in 18.3 day 1, 20 pounds, 8 ounces day 2, and then 19.3 yesterday. And the only reason he doesn't think he's weighed in one of those 24, 25-pound limits is he just hasn't had enough time. It could be today.
Been a story of some young guys, Marty, but here's a wily veteran and a guy that you expected to see on this final day, Scott Dobson.
Boy, it was a stretch for me to say that this guy right here was going to be in the championship round. When you look at his record here at Lake St. Clair in the Detroit River in the Erie area, it's second to none. It almost reminds me of what Tom Mansour is on the Mississippi River. We know how that turned out. Dobson has got multiple top 10s, 35 to count them, and multiple wins on this particular body of water. Can he close it out like Mansour and then become 2 local favorites to win here?
Absolutely. Scott Dobson, one of the guys that's definitely capable of bringing one of those mega bags that this fishery is known for. Spencer Sheffield also making that gamble, going for one of those dream bags. Or is, you know, those, we have that camp, or these other guys that are staying locally, staying around that takeoff area, are they going to have the big enough, or are they going to have enough fish to be able to sustain them one more day?
That's going to be the million-dollar question. And a lot of these guys, like with Sheffield, we're going to even ask, can he get there? And if he can get there, can he get back? He had limited time even on a calm day. Now today, it's going to be a chore to get there, and that's the understatement of today.
Well, as we mentioned, this is the final day of the final regular season pro circuit events, and we caught up with these anglers as they were getting ready to blast off one more time this morning.
Here we are, day 4 at Sandusky Bay at Lake Erie, and I'm sitting in 9th. And in my head, I've been fishing for largemouth, and I got to question whether that was the right move or not. I'm a little bit behind. I know I need to play catch up, so the battle right now is, should I go smallmouth or largemouth?
Hey guys, we're here on the final morning of the FLW Super Tournament, the final morning of the regular season, and it's a big day. You know, I've got the lead, but it's really tight. I mean, I've only got a couple pounds over second, who's Wheeler, and then Lucas right behind him, and they're going to catch him. Everyone in the top 10 is going to catch him today. I'm going to go out there and just stick to my own business, go out, catch 20 pounds, 22 pounds, and I'll be tough to beat if that can happen. But it's not going to be easy to catch him. You know, I mean, every day I've been worried about catching a limit, and today's no different. It's windier, the fish are more beat up, and it's going to be the toughest morning and day of the week for sure. So 2 of the 3 days so far have gone exceptional. You know, I had 22.8 the first day and 22.14 the third day. The second day, sandwiched in between, I only had 17.5. I had a hard time getting it going that morning, and you know, that was the day. You know, you can't expect to have 4 super consistent days when the bite is this iffy. You know, especially in the area I'm fishing. But I need to not have one of those in between days. I need to have a strong day today.
Sitting in 6th place, going into the final day. I got about a 6-pound deficit to make up, which is a lot of ground to gain on the top 10 days. So unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, it's really rough out there on the big lake. So it's really blowing hard out of the east today. It's like 17 miles an hour. So right now we're kind of waiting for the determination if they're going to let us run out in the big lake. If they do, I think I'm going to stick around local and fish the islands, fish some reefs offshore. If we get stuck here in the bay, anyone can win this event today. 13, 14, 15 pounds of largemouth in Sandusky Bay. If we get locked in Sandusky Bay, we'll go a long way, and a lot of guys can move up on the leaderboard. Okay. So when I've been fishing on the Detroit River and Lake St. Clair, it's primarily been a jerkbait, shallow in the morning, and then later in the day I'm switching over to a drop shot. I'm throwing a 3/8 ounce drop shot sinker, Provider drop shot sinker, and then a 1/2 ounce in a little bit more heavier current. I'm just using the standard smallmouth baits, a Z2. It's just a very well-known bait up here on Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair. It's been working great for me. Catching not a lot of fish, but I'm getting the right bites.
It's the day. Idling out. Beautiful sunrise. Got a little wind on the lake today, but we're going. That's what it's all about. We're going out here to chase these big brown ones. I don't mind fishing for green ones in the bay, but at the same point in time, I'm ready to go chase them brown ones. That wind positions them. If we can get them going, it's gonna be a fun day. But if we can hold, we can hold.
Man, that is a confident Jacob Wheeler right there. Now, Todd, with the anglers running, over 200 miles round trip, there is a lot of fishable water out here. Why don't you break down some of those key spots for us?
A lot of history. This is a place that's on a lot of people's bucket list. Sandusky, Ohio, Lake Erie, and really a huge playing field, Marty Stone. And this is a lake that reaches 200 miles over to the east of Buffalo. But we're talking about the western basin of Lake Erie. These guys are coming out of Sandusky Bay, where Cedar Point is. They're making a left, and a lot of guys staying in Lake Erie. We're calling it a close run, 15 to 20 miles, and a treacherous one at that. We've seen the Detroit River come into play about 50 miles away, and some guys, will they make that long run up to Lake St. Clair today as much as 80, 90 miles? We've seen that happen. Marty, talk us through the final day. I mean, obviously, the whole thing has been in play except for Canadian water, which you see there in red. What do you think is going to go down here, and where is it going to go down on day 4?
Man, I don't know where you give the advantage to, but man, you look at where they got the little hot spot out there in the Kelly Shoals and the Gull Island area. That's where Lucas Bertrand and a lot of this field did damage. Then as you just come out of the takeoff there in that eastern side, I think that's where we're going to see Wheeler and Dobson. Dobson checked up today. Wise veteran, got a lot of stops to make, doesn't want to put himself through this brutal run. The X factor, as we said all week long, is Lake St. Clair. I really didn't think an angler would be able to make that run 4 days in a row. Spencer Sheffield and Alton Jones Jr., it looks like they're going to test that theory. Those are the two anglers that ran up to St. Clair and made it work. It has been brutal, to say the least, and the day will be the toughest day of all with these heavy winds.
St. Clair's been fishing great all summer long. We saw a BFL here, and it was really the lake that was in everybody's mind. And was it going to dominate this event? So far, not the case, and it appears like Lake Erie may make that happen. Alton Jones Jr. and Spencer Sheffield are the two guys that they're young guys, making that treacherous run up there. Still a possibility. Will they have enough time to fish? That's really the question when you come out of Sandusky. But so far, it looks like Lake Erie has stole the show, and somebody's going to catch 5 big smallmouth today on this lake. We're going to find out who it is.
Absolutely. We're going to be seeing a lot of action here, and you guys are going to get to watch it all live. We've got 6 cameras on our top 6 anglers to start the day. We're also going to be catching up with Rookie of the Year Kyle Hall and Chris Jones with our Keeping with the Jones segment. And then for you guys that are watching on social media, make sure you guys leave some comments, interact. We always check in on those and answer any of those questions that we can. But then at 9 a.m., we'll be switching over to FLWfishing.com for all your live coverage. That's your unofficial leaderboard that you're looking at right now, which can also be found at FLWfishing.com, as well as the live stream. Jacob Wheeler already won in the boat.
Got some new names up there, too, today that we haven't really talked a lot about. Russ Lane, Jim Moynier, Jason Lambert, David Dudley, all having great events here. Got some work to do, but just to be able to make the top 10 in this event and survive is a big deal.
That's a look at where Jacob Wheeler's fishing, and let's take a look back right now.
Smallmouth area.
This is fish number 1 for Jacob Wheeler this morning.
Not a big one. Yeah, let's net him because he's so goofy. Not a big one. but a start. Start the day off. Round one. Oh, you are not coming off that Nico hook. Oh my goodness. Stop it. Please, sir, let go. Open your mouth up. I'm just trying to unhook you. Thank you. Chunky little smallmouth. Oh, we got to get rid of that one though. Number one for the morning. Okay.
And Jacob Wheeler hooked up again.
Thing is, smallmouth, you very seldom ever feel the bite. Drum, you'll feel them go doink. Smallmouth you'll pick up and it's heavy. Or they'll just grab it. They don't, every once in a while you'll feel them nip it. Every once in a while you'll feel them nip it. But not all the time. So this is sort of like my setup as far as rod. I'm throwing my 7.2 medium heavy action rod. I'm throwing the size 2 finesse Nico, and it has a little fluorocarbon like bait keeper right there, so that's sort of what keeps it on when I thread it on, so I don't really have to use super glue. 1/2 ounce VMC tungsten drop shot weight. And I'm actually throwing 10-pound Suffix Advanced fluorocarbon. This is the thing, a lot of people get caught up with 8 and 6 and 4 and whatever, but in my opinion, especially on Erie, you know, you're not getting enough bites, a lot of bites anyway, so you better make everyone count. So 10-pound works good. Now I will have a rod rigged up with 8 and a rod rigged up with 6. There is times when they get pressured that you can get a couple more bites, but with all the zebra mussels and all the rock and stuff, it's a better deal just to go ahead and up your line size. I think that's a big misnomer. Most of the time, the smallmouth will only bite a certain light line. You probably could throw 20 out there and catch them on it, no problem. But it does affect the thing is, I don't think it's the fish to see the bait or the line. I think it's the fact that the fish, it affects the action of your bait. So it's not natural. When you have a lighter line, there's less drag in the water. So it's more natural in the water rather than like getting drug around with a 20-pound line. So that's the only thing that I feel like it's a big deal. Is I don't think it's necessarily that the fish see the bait or see the line. I think it's more so the fact of the action. Goodness.
Well, you can hear that wind on his microphone, and we saw this yesterday where he's coming out of Sandusky, and instead of going out straight to the islands, he's a little bit more to the east. And I would call this, as far as Lake Erie, some protected water. You've got there at Sandusky Bay sort of knocking down some of the winds and then the islands out there. So this is what it's going to look like today at the beginning of the day out on Erie in protected water, and it's only going to get worse. But man, he had a school of fish fired up yesterday, and he left them biting. And that was one of the few times, other than the anglers up at St. Clair, that we've seen on Erie, anglers leaving them biting.
Guys, I've gotten to talk to Jacob Wheeler this week pretty much every evening and kind of talking through his game plan. You know, one of the things that he talked to me about early on in this event, that he felt like Lake Erie didn't have enough fish to last 4 days. He thought the guys that were committed to Lake Erie and only had a handful of spots were going to run out of fish, and we've seen that happen so far. The guys who have kept going right now, we've seen Justin Lucas and Josh Bertrand and a couple other guys still making it happen. Jacob Wheeler, Scott Dobson, their choice was to put the whole playing field in play. Jacob said, look, I've got some great areas on Erie, but I'm afraid if I lean on them for 4 straight days, it's not going to work. Jacob has worked all the way to Toledo, all the way to Detroit the first day. He told me first day he made a Lake Erie milk run and put about 130 miles round trip in. Day 2, chose a completely different strategy, took advantage of the wind laying down, ran to Lake St. Clair. He said, man, I wish I could have caught 20 pounds. He was just short of that and had 17, 14. He's worried that that's left the door open for Lucas and Bertrand to blow by him. Day 3, he said Lake Erie showed its potential yesterday, and he's really excited to get back out there today, but he's worried not enough bites. Marty, I know you've been talking to Bertrand and Lucas. Has that been a concern for them? Are they concerned that they're running out of fish?
I don't think it's running out of fish with Lucas, who we're watching over here on split screen to the right. It's just there wasn't a lot of fish to start out there. You know, both of those anglers, Lucas and Bertrand, were talking about that it's a moral victory to catch 5, but they've also, as Bertrand said, he said there's some prehistoric dinosaurs that's living out on Erie. They're old, they're resident fish, they're staying in one general area, and if you can get enough of those bites, if you can just get 5 of them, you're going to have 20-plus pounds. And Bertrand was telling me there's such a fine line on Erie as far as being able to fish. He said 4 foot and under, you can fish. You can keep that trolling motor pointed into the wind with the anchoring capability, spotlight capability these guys have got, and forward-facing sonar, it works. He said the second you get over 5 foot, then you have to start drifting. And the difference between here and St. Clair is when you drift on St. Clair, you've got miles you can drift and be in productive water. On Erie, you're trying to drift over a rock pile that's the size of the front of the boat. You've got to run up past it, drift down back through it, and then you become very inefficient. So when you're fishing inefficient and heavy waves like this, and you're only trying to get 4 or 5 bites, then it makes the chore even that much more difficult. I think the consensus coming in, St. Clair versus Erie, the quality was on Erie. The quantity was on St. Clair. I asked Lucas after yesterday, was he okay? And he's like, man, I'm getting older and my motion sickness is getting worse. He said he didn't eat breakfast or lunch yesterday, but he still had to fight it all day. And he said if it gets rougher out there today, he's probably going to have to Dramamine up a lot quicker, but it's still going to affect him. But he battled through it yesterday, and he said he's going to battle through it one more day. always talk about the youth movement in this sport, and I don't think it's any coincidence when we look at our top 5 anglers. Lucas is the old man of this bunch at 35 years old. I think this was a tournament that the attrition rate on body and equipment got to a lot of these guys. And now you're seeing some really great anglers in this top 10, but I don't think it's any coincidence that some of these younger guys are up there because they were just able to outlast physically others in this.
Guys, we're waiting to hear from Spencer Sheffield and Alton Jones Jr. and really curious to see if they're going to attempt the run to Lake St. Clair today. And really it's going to be the 2 different stories that play out here on FLW Live today. The guys on Lake Erie, it's a grind. They're talking about 1 bite an hour is really the goal. If they can get 1 bite an hour for 6-7 hours, get 6-7 bites, that's what it's going to take to put together a quality bag. The guys running up to Lake St. Clair, Marty, different story. When they get up there, they may only have a couple hours to fish, but when they land on a group of fish on Lake St. Clair, it can be fast and furious.
Sheffield showed us what that looked like yesterday. I mean, he put on a clinic. Boy, and speaking of clinics, if Mansour is a godfather to Mississippi, here's a godfather of Erie, Detroit River.
They're going to be bouncing around, waves coming over the bow. It's going to be hard to stay in position. So I elected not to make the run up to St. Clair, the Detroit River today. I don't think the risk was worth the reward, sitting in 6th place and having 7 pounds to make up. So I elected to stay here and fish around the islands here. And first spot we stopped, I caught a nice 2 3/4, maybe a 3-pounder. And to me, it just wasn't worth making that run. So I'm going to sit on the backside of these islands, get a little bit of protection, and just go around and fish isolated boulders all day and try to put 5 decent ones in the box, hopefully move up in the points a little bit. But I was concerned this morning when I woke up. It seemed like it was a little calm, but then I looked up at the treetops and it was blowing pretty good. So we got out here in the morning to the boat ramp, and I looked at the weather buoy. It said it was blowing like it was about 18.5 miles an hour, the gusts were. So that was my reason why I stayed. I'm going to sit here, put 5 in the box, hopefully have a decent day. I think if I can get 5 out here, I should have 15 to 17 pounds, maybe more. Just going to peck away here and try to catch them. But I know quite a few guys in the top 10 are about 8 miles more north of me, out past the islands on some shoals out there, and I know that they're going to be bouncing around a lot because it's definitely rough. The first fish I caught, I threw a drop shot on him twice. He didn't need it. I picked up a Ned rig, threw down, he bit it. So I'm just going to rotate between a Ned rig and a drop shot with a flat nose minnow and a Z2. Definitely a blowy day, though. This is what Lake Erie is known for. You can never get 4 days of calm weather, and we had 4 days of rough weather, for sure. But you can still catch them when it's rough like this. It's not an excuse not to go out and fish. If you can take your time, go nice and slow, get to your fishing location, you can still catch the fish. You know, you might not be able to use a 3/8 ounce sinker. You might have to go up to a 1/2 ounce or even a 3/4 to get it down there fast to that rock to catch that fish. So you just take your time, go slow, take care of your equipment, get to your fishing location, and hopefully they're there. But if you have to pick up and move, 10 miles or 15 miles to another island, it might take you half an hour, 15, 20 minutes just to move around from spot to spot. That's one of the things that I don't like about Lake Erie is when it's rough, you can't move around very easy. On Lake St. Clair or in the river, it's relatively calm and you can move around a lot quicker.
Here's a wise man making a wise move, in my opinion.
Dropping on boulders all day.
Hooked up.
Sheepy. Oh no, that's a giant bass. I mean a giant. I mean a giant. I'm trying not to get excited right now, but this fish is like 5 pounds. I thought it was a sheephead. I started reefing on him and he came up and showed himself. I'll let this thing fight all day. I need this fish in a big way. This is big.
Nah.
Brand new line, everything. I mean, I don't know. He might have taken it really deep and rub it on those teeth. He just lost them. No excuse. I don't know what happened. I mean, the drag was loose. So I hate fighting those fish so long.
Wow, let's take another look on the Phoenix
Sheepy.
replay.
Thought it was a sheep's head, and then when that thing jumped, he knew right then. That fish, guys, right there would have caught him all the way up to the leader.
I mean, a giant.
Bad news is he lost it. Good news is he's around the right quality.
Would have been so much better if that fish was sitting in the box right now. Legit giant. I don't know. It was just like a weird clean break. It wasn't like my knot broke I mean, obviously my knot broke, but it wasn't like I had like a little loop, little coil on the end of where it broke. I don't know what happened. I mean, my line could have got nicked, something, you know, running out here in these big waves. Anything, but that was not good. Everything takes longer when it's rough like this, bouncing around. Crap. That would put me at like 8 pounds for 2. No idea what went wrong. Good thing is there's more fish down there. That's every smallmouth angler's worst dream right there. Get a big one on, fight them forever, and doink. He fought like a drum, like off the get there, so, I mean, I wasn't pulling on him that hard. He bit the flatworm. It's just smoke purple. Kind of looks like a goby or a shad. I don't know what the other guys are throwing, but that's what I throw out here. I'm not talking right now because I'm like depressed. Oh man. He went down there, told all his buddies, they're like, don't bite that flatworm. You will go up into a boat.
Speaking of flatworm, the man everyone's trying to beat, although we don't have service with him yet this morning, Josh Bertrand had a couple-pound lead over second place going into today, and that earned him the Tackle Warehouse Clear Leader, which he talked a little bit about this morning.
What's going on, guys? I've been at Lake Erie all week long doing one thing, drop shotting a Berkeley max scent flatworm. You know, anytime I come up to the Great Lakes, I know that drop shotting is going to be a big factor, and this week it's all I've done. Had 4 drop shot rods on the deck through the entire tournament, and this bait has been extremely key. Smallmouth, there's just something about it. I'm not a biologist. I don't know why smallmouth love it so much, but the scent really is a factor with these fish. Color-wise, I haven't been keying on one color or another. I've thrown a few different colors, black, brown back, green pumpkin. As long as it's a flatworm, these smallmouth like it.
When we were at Sturgeon Bay, we had one of the inventors, the scientist of the flatworm on with us in that coverage up there. And he really did a nice job of breaking down the science. Berkeley spends a lot of money, a lot of time on the science of that. And what I learned is that it's the power bait plus gulp. That equals the max scent. Power bait was the first thing they come out with, then the gulp. The knock on the gulp was it would dry out. Great smallmouth bait. We saw everybody use the gulp cans. Still do. You still see them use them in the minnows. But now the science behind this is they combine both. The plastic's very viable and it won't dry out. It's easy to use. It's reused, and these fish flat hold on to it.
I'm in 21 feet of water as I'm actually fishing. My prop's staying in the water, getting a good presentation. But it's not to say we might not run way out there later. The biggest rock you can find will definitely hold. I mean, any big boulder out here should have a fish on it. Some of the smaller ones obviously will too, but the big ones, like that one where I just lost that big fish, he came off a big rock. Where I caught the one earlier, he came off a big boulder. But I'm going to throw out all of them. And I graphed out here. I think the second day of practice, I ran through a lot of these well-known areas, and I graphed every big boulder I could find, and today I'm going to try to fish them all. I should get bit here.
We are with our first live look at Josh Bertrand this morning.
As Dobson alluded to, he's about 8 miles south of these guys, and he's tucked in behind one of the islands. Bertrand and Lucas are right in the mouth of this wind.
It's a rough one. It's a rough one this morning, and our first place didn't have the bait fish on it like it did yesterday, so we're having to fish some other stuff. We'll go back, and hopefully they'll be there, but I just pulled up to this one and actually see some bait and just caught one, so that's good. I really don't know what to make of this right now. I mean, rougher, but if I'm going to fish to win this thing and fish for these smallmouth, I can't be running around. It's not an option, as rough as it is, so I've got to fish for a while and just see if it's doable. Look at that wave. Look at this thing. It's incredible. It's fishable. It's just not fun to get around, to go anywhere, you know, to move around, and you're going to have to be really limited on where you fish. You better hope they're there. Definitely disappointing when they weren't loaded up on that one place, but I'm seeing bait on this side of the shoal. They could easily get blown back over there and pull up, so we'll see.
I have a feeling we're going to be in and out of service with him all day long just because of the wind and everything too. And guys, I want to point this out as well. This is the calm part of the morning. I'm looking at my windy app right now, and at 2 o'clock it's called for sustained in the teens, 14, 15, gust into the 20s. Again, this is that fine line where I mean, the guys on the bank that made the decision to let them go, good for them. But I've always said with the tournament directors and everybody out there, go out there and experience this one time. This right here is a ragged edge on you talking about the deadliest catch. This is it. This is as extreme as it gets for a bass fisherman. Josh and both Justin will have their work cut out for them. You can see where Wheeler and Dobson are. That water's a little bit more protected. But where Josh Bertrand is right now, what you're looking at is the calmest water that they're going to see out there. And then where Sheffield and Alton Jones had to run, it's actually, once they got past islands, a lot rougher than this.
And the thing to keep in mind with Lake Erie is it's such a big, massive body of water. It's one of the Great Lakes, and we're talking about 200 miles roughly to the east of this, Marty. And these waves are building for hours before they even get to Josh Bertrand. And you know, the thing that comes to mind for me and that I've been waiting to see as these last couple of days have played out is they're fishing out in the exposed water. They're out just, you know, east of those islands. It's exposed. There's nothing to break these waves all the way from the far ends of Lake Erie. So Justin Lucas, Josh Bertrand, will we see them move back and try to find some protected area? Josh knows the winning fish are in this area. He's committed to it. We've got him on the board right now for a 2.5 pounder. I'm not sure if we missed that with coverage or whatever, but Josh knows the quality of fish to win this event is out here. He says it's doable. We're going to ride along and find out.
I really like how fluid, though, Jacob Wheeler and Scott Dobson have been through this event. Each day we've seen them fish different areas and really just adapt to the situations where, Josh Bertrand, Justin Lucas, they have focused on this one particular area, moving around a little bit. Todd, there's that fish you mentioned. Fish number 1 for Josh Bertrand this morning.
on the board. Come here, dude. Stop. He's probably 16 inches. I'm just gonna be super sure I'm gonna get seasick in the bottom of the boat here. All right, it's a 2-pounder. Okay.
Now back live over to a hydrating Scott Dobson.
It's like having a chauffeur. What's that? Live with you. Okay. I just came across a couple fish there. I'm gonna flip back around. Those are definitely bass. I'm not used to fishing these big waves out here. I mean, I'm a Lake St. Clair angler, and I've been fishing Lake St. Clair for probably religiously for like the last 13 years. But when I started fishing early, I used to come out in this rough stuff all the time, but my sea legs aren't that good as they used to be. But I'm letting Lance, my camera guy, use my butt seat, so my legs will get stronger as the day goes on.
He not only has the best haircut on tour, he's also just catering to his camera operator. That's incredible.
22 feet of water, came up to 18. That's a big, big rock. I don't know what all the guys are doing back in Michigan. I know all my buddies are probably practicing for the 2 BFLs that are going out of Trenton on Saturday and Sunday. And I thought about fishing, but I think I'm going to take a day off and try to recover and get some sleep. I've definitely got a couple fish down here on the screen. I'll lock it down on the ghost and anchor mode here and hold out here for a minute and just kind of peck around. I'll throw the drop shot out there. I'll switch up with the Ned rig. I might even throw a tube because no one really throws a tube anymore, but that thing still is money. And if you want a good tube to throw, Art Ferguson makes the best tube, Provider Tackle. That guy knows how to catch a smallmouth or two. You want them to bite, but sometimes they just don't bite. That's the problem with all these electronics is we can see the fish, but can't make them bite all the time. I'm over losing the big fish now. It's went away, so that's behind me. But that hurt. Come on.
Dobson had a great year. He's going to definitely be one of our favorites heading into the title event. But before he even gets there, and him and I talked about this for the event on August 18th through the 20th, he's got a Toyota Series back up here. So he's got 3 tournaments in a row that's truly in his wheelhouse.
I guess since Lake Martin, COVID shut us down and we've been off work, and we actually went back to work. Our business started back up last Monday, and I've been out here playing and fishing this tournament, and all my managers back at home, and everyone. We had to move our office in the midst of all this COVID disaster, and I want to thank them for busting their rumps to get all that done while I'm out here playing around with these little brown fish. And I will be back to work on Monday for a day. Then I got to go back to the Toyota Series. But thanks to them, they've done a wonderful job. They don't even call me, probably because they're mad at me. Can't get these fish to bite. I don't know what's going on. Ned rig going down. The Ned rig is like a little peanut for a smallmouth. It's such an incredible bait. I think it's almost better than the drop shot at times. But we're burning time. I mean, every bite's going to count today, and it's almost 9. You know, we're 2 hours in, and it's going to take us probably 40 minutes to run in, 45. So it's going to be a short day. I don't know how the guys are going to do it that run up to the river of St. Clair, and I hope Spencer's safe because it's rough. Cool thing with like the Ned rig is you won't always feel the smallmouth bite the bait out here, so you want to use the lightest head as you can, but you still want it to get down, and you won't necessarily feel the smallmouth bite. You'll just kind of lift up and it'll be tight, and just kind of reel into them. You don't want to rip and set the hook. Just kind of just lean back and pull into them, and that's how you know it's a smallmouth. The line will just tighten up. A drum will pound it. It'll hit it, boom, super hard, and that's 90% of the time is a drum. Come on. I'm definitely down there. 20 feet of water. That's fairly certain that's a bass. It'd be nice to get a little sun today too, would be helpful. Cloudy isn't always the best for smallmouth. I don't know if you can hear that wind through my mic, but I say it's probably still about 17, 18 miles an hour. I don't think it's 20, but it's windy. I just felt my drop shot sinker roll over the boulder. That's how you know you're on the spot. No fish swimming off with it. You know, we're supposed to be excited fishing on day 4, and I am excited, but I'm just physically exhausted. Like, I have no energy whatsoever left in my body from just the 4 days of practice, 3 days of competition, you know, the early mornings and the late nights getting tied up and getting ready, and it takes a lot out of your body on these smallmouth tournaments, especially when it's, you know, when it's rough like it's been for the last 4 days. It's you got to keep yourself in good shape to fish these big waters all the time. Clapper's probably watching saying, it's not rough out there. That's a pancake. That guy's been fishing out here since Lake Erie was created. He's one of the guys that pioneered fishing on the big water and making the big runs, from Sandusky to the other side of Lake Erie over into Canada. He He is the man. And he still fishes and still catches them. Just milling around, looking for rocks, hitting all my my waypoints here on my Lowrance, and just try to find one.
You're watching Scott Dobson there. Got word that Alton Jones Jr. is just going through the Miracle Mile up in the Detroit River, so we should be getting some live coverage on him soon. That also would mean Spencer Sheffield should be somewhere up in that area, so we might be seeing both of those anglers on the next segment. But we're going to jump into another quick break. Just a reminder for all you guys watching on YouTube and Facebook right now, we're going to be ending the streams there. And this live coverage will only be available over on FLWfishing.com along with the unofficial leaderboard. Don't go anywhere, guys. We've got plenty more coverage here on the final day of the final stop of the 2020 Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit regular season when we return.